guys. We're working on the 383 stroker. We're going to try to finalize this alternator bracket and idler pulley. So without the idler, looks like I'm getting about this much contact. Well, when I put this idler pulley in, little H pulley, I'm getting quite a bit more contact. So that's going to work out great. So I'm going to get to a point here to where I start bolting this in. Getting a bolt in up here, get a bolt here, and a bolt on this side. So let me get set up to do that and see what happens. This is how my idler bracket is going to set in the car. 1/4 inch plate steel. So I'm going to be drilling this out for 3/8 hole there, and then I'll end up having one in this area. But that's the material that I'm using. And then this is the brass, yellow brass. I'm using those for spacers. This is an H pulley that I picked up for $22 for 2 of them from China. And they seem to work out pretty well. And I am fighting with this here. So probably, oh, there you go. So what I have, when I take equipment apart or replace equipment, at work, I'll tend to save hardware. Well, little spacer and this little shoulder bolt. And what I ended up doing was taking and milling this shoulder down on a lathe to fit. This is 10 millimeter. So I was able to mill that shoulder down to fit in here, and then this spacer turns out to work out pretty good. It fits, didn't have to do anything yet. It fits over this 3/8 16 thread, and just snap it. It just, you know, snaps over that shoulder that I milled down, and you know, it you know, rolls pretty good on it. So that was a win. So at this juncture, recycled plate steel, recycled yellow brass, and I just milled this stuff down. I turned it on a lathe to fit the spacers that I'll use. And so far I've got $22 in this idler pulley. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a huge win to try to make my bracket work better instead of spending more money to try to make another system work. I think what I'll do is I'll video what's going on around the alternator and the water pump so you can actually see where I don't have much room. And here's the spacing that I'm dealing with running this single groove pulley setup and the Speedway inward alternator bracket, which would consist of this bracket here and this bracket here for a small block Chevy, right? Alternator with a single groove March pulleys setup, where, you know, we could see before that the contact is minimal, which, you know, like I was saying, Glenn was saying that's not going to be enough, and I know it isn't, because I've had issues with that before. So that led me to building that idler pulley bracket. And the cross member there, you can see, well, you know what? It'd be easier if I measure it. Where's my measuring stick? So 2 inches. Well, actually, 1.5 inches before I hit the brake line. So you can see that it's pretty narrow running a short water pump. Long water pump is not gonna, I'm gonna be crashing into this cross member running a long water pump. Your pulleys are gonna come out. And then you can see where this alternator is sticking like 2.5, well, with that hootsy-watsy bolting out there, 3 inches. So that's 3 inches inward. Well, if I try to put a bracket here, it's sending it out, running into my cross member. If I try to put the bracket in here, which they give you that option, either side, well, now you'd be dealing with your outlet to your radiator. This side, there's not enough room. It starts hitting this rail with a cross member. Yeah, they wanted you to have 9.25 inches, and as you can see, I don't even have 9.25. I'm way past the frame rail to the other inward side of the wheel. So those are the snafus of not realizing when you're putting a car together, you need to have what you're going to run, completely what you're going to run when you go to set it in place. I didn't do that. I set this cowl where the bolt on the frame goes through. There's an alignment bolt on this cowl that bolts down to the frame. I bolted that there. And then I put just an engine block in here. No transmission, no water pump, and I just said, okay, that looks good enough for me. And that's where I mounted the motor mounts. Well, that's my error. All right, got 2 bolts. Gonna get that last one. Trying to get the center right there, getting that cut out right there at the water pump pulley, get that even. These are just mock-up bolts. So what I decided to do was thread the back of the bracket so I can have those flush with the edge of the bracket instead of having to put a washer on them or a nut. What you can see, the contact in this point all the way down to this point, where it was only giving me about this much contact before. Now I've gained from here to here. So I'd say twice as much. All right, we're going to recap. Okay, so the yellow brass spacers, that one needs to be bolted up to where it gets that sag out of it. That's a 3/8 hole that's drilled through that spacer, so it's sagging a bit. Got the spacer there. You can see what I'll end up having once I put the bolts in there. Those will be flush with the back side of the bracket. I think that's a little bit cleaner than having a nut and a bolt. Wait, a washer and a nut on the back side of it. I like the way that it turned out. Like I was commenting before, you can just see the amount of contact that I've got now compared to this to there. So that's going to work. All right. We're going to move on to the next project. And we'll see you next week. And thanks for watching. And until then, we'll see you soon.